Welcome everybody to the Sleeperwire show. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me today I have George and Lucas once again. Welcome back to the weekend preview. Week 1 is in the books and week 2 has begun. Today is Friday, September 14th. We've got a great show for you guys this week, but before we get into it, George, Lucas, how you guys doing?
Fantastic. It's wonderful to be back on the show.
Love being here, getting ready for Thursday night football. Is it going to be the Ravens or the Bengals?
Let's call it right now. Who do you think? I think it's going to be the Ravens.
I think it's going to be the Ravens also, but I believe the Bengals have won something like 75% of their last matchups for 10 years or so.
Damn, that's a stat. What about you, George? Who do you think's going to win tonight? For all those people who are not listening to this in the future.
I'm going to go with the Ravens. Stacked defense. I'm slowly becoming a big Ravens fan. I think they're going to do fantastic this year.
All right. Well, we've got a great show for you guys this week. We've got start, sit. We're going to run through the matchups here. We are going to flex those muscles again. And, George, I think I'm going to ask you once again if I can see your flexed muscles. I think Mike has that sound clip from last week. And then we have our new segment called Streamerwire, where we're going to hit you with those streaming quarterback and tight end options. Make sure to also go check out the Break from the Grind podcast. George is one of the hosts of that. George and Jason, great guys over there who talk a little bit about fantasy, but it's more about life. You want to explain a little bit more about that, George? What do you guys do over there?
Yeah, so what we do is we try to actually get to know the people who do the podcast. So we figure if somebody wants to hear great fantasy advice, they would go to Sleeperwire. After they got, all the sleepers and everything that they needed to know from Sleeperwire, if you want to know a little bit more about guys like Matt Harmon, every time I even when I had him on, I called him Mark Harmon.
Harmon, the greatest.
Yeah, from NCIS. But no, if you want to know more about the guys like Matt Harmon, Justin Lanero. We've had just a whole bunch of people come on the show. And what we do is we actually talk to them about life, some of the struggles that they've gone through, some bouts with depression, bouts with alcoholism, stuff like that. It's mostly if you have an amazing story and you want to get your story told, our show is for that. We will talk to you more about that stuff than fantasy football because we figure if you want to get Matt Harmon's sleeper running back this week, you would just go to him and his show for that, or you would go to Sleeperwire and get them from them. So we try to mix it up a little bit and get to more know the people behind the shows than to get their actual fantasy advice.
Love it. It's a fun show. It's super different, super fun. I really enjoy listening to it. Before we get into a little bit of news, which we usually don't cover on Thursdays, but we do have a couple important pieces. I want to let you guys know that this show is being sponsored by PristineAuction.com. They have daily auctions with hundreds of brand new items every single day, so it's never the same stuff that you're bidding on. Check out PristineAuction.com. Everything is JSA certified. It's all 100% authentic. Let them know that you heard about them from Sleeperwire, and that's PRISTINE auction.com. All right, so a couple pieces of news here. Devonta Freeman did not practice on Thursday. Lucas, is this a bad sign for the Falcons offense?
It's not a great sign. When Wednesday when Wednesday did not practices happen, you're not so worried. But Thursday, you kind of start to worry about it. Although Devonta Freeman isn't someone that necessarily needs to be practicing every single day during the week in order to play on the weekend. So if he doesn't practice tomorrow, yeah, that starts worrying me. Not so much yet.
George, what about you?
Not worried at all about Devonta Freeman yet. We'll wait till if he doesn't practice Friday, then I'm concerned. Like Lucas said, he's not somebody who needs to practice all week long to suit up and go on Sunday. So if he doesn't practice tomorrow, I'm a little bit more concerned, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 3 right now.
All right. I sent out a trade offer, actually, for Tevin Coleman today. So trading a couple of my bench pieces, Allen Robinson and Carlos Hyde, to get Jarvis Landry and Tevin Coleman. How do you feel about that?
I like it.
Yeah, I love Landry. I absolutely love Landry. And whenever we see Baker Mayfield, you're going to see an even bigger uptick for him.
I was shocked at how well Landry did, especially in the rain. I thought it was just going to be a crap show basically for the whole Browns or for that whole game. But I didn't expect Landry to come out with 7 catches and over 100 yards and a touchdown. Did not see that happening.
He's underrated, and he's the next Larry Fitzgerald, right? I mean, basically the same person. He's the next Larry Fitz.
That's bold.
I said that's really bold. I'm not ready to anoint him the next Larry Fitz.
Okay, you heard it here first. Bold takes. That's what we do.
Heard it here first. Well, also not practicing here was Leonard Fournette. He did not practice on Thursday, but he plans to test out his hamstring on Friday. He is expecting to play, and ESPN's Josina Anderson also expects him to play on Sunday. Last big name, Aaron Rodgers, has not fully committed to playing on Sunday, but I think it's safe to assume he's probably going to play, right?
I'm more concerned that Leonard Fournette doesn't play than Aaron Rodgers. Leonard Fournette came out earlier today and said that he's a true game time decision. So I'm more leery about Leonard Fournette not suiting up than Aaron Rodgers.
I'm there with you. We saw that Aaron Rodgers was able to do this, come back out after halftime and completely dismantle the Bears. He's not going to be mobile, so you're going to see a lot of the quick releases that he had, similar to Minnesota. They'll game plan around that. Leonard Fournette has had a history of not being able to finish games or in and out and having soft tissue issues. So I agree, Leonard Fournette worries me more than Aaron Rodgers.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the matchups and the start-sit players in each one. All right, so Thursday Night Football kicked it off with Ravens at Bengals. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning. First game of the week, though, on Sunday. We have Chiefs traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. So I think, obviously, Antonio Brown and James Conner are both auto starts. Big Ben, I think, is a great start this week, especially like if you have a league where you keep a second quarterback and Big Ben is on there. I think you can play him at home against the Chiefs. It's going to be awesome. Lucas, any other auto starts on the Steelers side of the ball? Are you definitely playing Juju this week?
I think you need to play Juju this week. He's not my favorite person in the world. If you listen to me earlier in the offseason, I'm still not sold on him yet. But the Chiefs have a very susceptible defense, and we saw what Phillip Rivers was able to do with all of the receiving options there last week. So Juju is a guy that you should feel comfortable playing.
All right, on the Chiefs side of the ball, I think Kareem Hunt, you still have to start him. Yes, I know he let a lot of people down last week.
Yeah, you're starting Kareem Hunt. Even though he disappointed, listen, I expect a big bounce back from him. Yes, Joey Bosa didn't play for the Chargers, but they're still a pretty good defense. I think Kareem Hunt will, as the year goes on, he'll get his act together. Andy Reid's going to play him. You're going to start Kareem Hunt. You're going to start Pat Mahomes. You're starting Kelsey. Question, are you starting or do you feel confident in starting Sammy Watkins in a flex?
I don't feel comfortable with Sammy Watkins. I'm not a Sammy Watkins fan. I haven't been for a long time. So if you're asking me, no, not until he proves it with the Chiefs and shows rapport with Mahomes.
I think you probably have a better option, especially after week one. I do like Sammy Watkins, and I would be okay with putting him there. I've got him in a few leagues, but I'm keeping him on the bench this week. I want to see him get involved before just, saying, yeah, you can start Sammy Watkins, especially in Pittsburgh against the defense at home. I'm a little cautious there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wouldn't be starting him either. Moving
on to the next game, Miami Dolphins at New York Jets. So a division game right here. The Jets lit it up last week. They did not light it up last year. Lit it up last week. Isaiah Crowell with a monster touchdown run that he does once a season. He breaks off a long, but 2 touchdowns for Crowell. And Sam Darnold looking like the quarterback that they drafted him to be. This Jets wide receiver core is actually looking to be pretty good with Enunwa staying healthy. Who would you rather have rest of season? And I know I hate rest of season questions after week one, but if you had to make a call, George, Robbie Anderson or Quincy Enunwa?
I'm going to take Quincy Enunwa. I think he's going to be more consistent game to game. If you need somebody with upside, I can see Anderson. I'm liking him a lot to a young Deshaun Jackson. Of those two, I'm going to take Enunwa. I think he's the wide receiver one in that offense.
What about you, Lucas?
I'm taking Enunwa in a PPR and Robbie Anderson in a standard, especially anything that has long play bonuses.
Yep, I like it. Anybody else in the Jets offense that you're going to start? I mean, Crowell, I think a lot of people are going to overreact to the 2 touchdown game and be like, oh my God, this is James Conner just for the Jets, blah, blah, blah. Just play him every single week. I think he's probably going to lessen people down at some point, but is he a locked and loaded Gotta play him this week after last week's performance.
Against that Miami defense, I would. The Miami defense has just been, they're not a good defense. We've seen what Deion Lewis was able to do to them last week. Derrick Henry had an okay game against that Dolphins defense. I think the Jets are going to be down, and I think the Jets will actually get ahead on the Dolphins, and I think that you'll see a lot more of Crowell than you will Bilal Powell.
Moving over to the Dolphins side of the ball, is Kenny Stills 100% you start him this week after his 4-catch, 2-touchdown game last week, Lucas?
He's not a 100% you start him. I do like Kenny Stills, but the Dolphins aren't that great, and I don't love Ryan Tannehill. Stills has the ability to break off a big play at any point, but the Jets D looked pretty good, so I'm curious to see if the Jets D was a fluke or if Kenny Stills was something that's more consistent. So he's someone that if you need him, you can play him, but he's not a for sure start.
I agree. Yeah.
What about Mike Gesicki?
No.
Nothing yet?
Like the talent, right? So there's a lot of upside there, but not someone you can rely on yet.
I agree.
Yeah, I think he'll have big games throughout the year, but it's going to be such hit and miss. It's not going to be somebody you're going to want to start.
Yep. Moving on, Eagles at Buccaneers. This one, before the season, people would have thought this was going to be a pretty exciting game. Now, not quite so sure. Eagles, Nick Foles has been announced a starter, so Carson Wentz not playing for the second week in a row. Jay Ajayi, more or less than 2 touchdowns this week.
Less.
I think he gets in the end zone, but JJ is a must start for me. I think he has a big season.
Yeah, I agree. Not just because he had 2 touchdowns last week. Really, the thing that sold me on Ajayi was when we did the great debate that was him versus Alex Collins earlier in the season, earlier in the offseason. Granted, I still like Alex Collins more, and I actually had to argue for Jay Ajayi this time. And people who have listened to the show for a long time, and both of you guys know, I do not like him. I never have. But that changed. So looking into some of the stuff and the situation and everything, I do like Ajayi. I think he's someone who you can put in your RB2 spot each and every week. Mike Evans for the Buccaneers, moving over to that team. Huge game last week. Is he back to his, 2016 self?
Looked on point to me. I would be starting him every week that Fitzmagic is out there, and then I would start him with Winston, and hopefully it continues to go that way.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where you drafted him early enough, and especially after seeing what he did in New Orleans last week, you're starting him every week. He's a no-brainer start. Whether he's going to produce like he did last week or not, I don't think he will. I think the Eagles' defense will keep him under control. I think we've seen the best game of Ryan Fitzpatrick's career last week, and I don't expect him to go out and have another career game this week. So I think the Bucs are going to be a big letdown, but you're still going to have to start Mike Evans.
That was actually Ryan Fitzpatrick's second best game of the year, or of his career. Did you know that?
No, I did not. I would have been willing to put money that was the best game he's ever played.
It was not the best game he's ever played. I'm looking up right now. It was against the Titans. I can't see forget the week that was in here. Against the Titans back in 2014, he threw 6 touchdowns.
Wow.
Wow. I would have lost money on that. You're lost.
So that was the game of his career. This one definitely second best. 5 touchdowns, 4 through the air and 1 on the ground. Huge game. I think, are people going to overreact to this, or do you think most of the fantasy community realizes that Ryan Fitzpatrick has been around long enough that we know who he is, so we don't really need to overreact?
You can insert the Denny Green. We are who they thought they are. I think everybody knows what they're getting in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they're not buying it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They know that he's viable to help some of the wide receivers produce and have big games, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is not necessarily someone that you want to depend on week in and week out for his fantasy production and not have turnovers.
Moving on to the next game here. Cleveland Browns travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints in the Dome. A lot of big fantasy names in this one. So on the Saints side of the ball, we got Drew Brees, of course, Michael Thomas, of course, Alvin Kamara, of course. All 3 must-start guys. And then on the other side of the ball, even on the Browns, who have started with their best record in the last 2 years at 0-0-1, which is an awesome stat. Their best start since 2014 is starting with a tie. Over there, they got Josh Gordon and Jarvis Landry, Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, even maybe, and Tyrod Taylor is looking like a streamable candidate. But I think we're going to talk about him a little bit later. So let's go ahead and talk about Josh Gordon and Jarvis Landry. Are they both must starts this week?
Yes.
Landry is a must start, and I think you should start Gordon. He's going to be out there, and he's going to win the 50-50 balls. So as long as he gets more targets than he did last week, I think that you'll be pretty happy with having him.
And that Saints defense that was so good last year got torched by Fitzpatrick.
They did, but I'm holding out judgment there. That may have just been an outlier. Strange things tend to happen between the Bucs and the Saints.
Yeah, this is going to be in the dome. I think this is going to be a much higher scoring game than people think that it will be. I'm definitely starting both Jarvis Landry and I'm starting Josh Gordon. And the Browns coaching staff came out and said they expect Josh Gordon to start, and he's going to see a lot more targets.
Yeah, but they can't control who throws the who throws the ball to him.
No, but I think they want to get him more involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny to hear him say, "Oh yeah, I expect him to get more targets out there," and I was like, "Well, that's really up to Tyrod, isn't it?"
Yes, of course it is. He's a quarterback.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah,
for sure. But if he's out there for enough snaps, you would just assume that he's going to get some more of the target volume, just because it's him, Landry, and Njoku, who I also like Njoku's talent.
I like the talent. We just haven't seen anything yet.
Well, not week one. We did see some in the preseason. He looked pretty good. Looked pretty good through Hard Knocks when he wasn't dropping passes, but they got onto him, and then he went into that third game. I guess it was against the Giants when he pulled down 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
So if you've got Njoku, chances are you probably have a second tight end, I would assume. You might have picked one up off waivers. Kittle or Njoku?
Oh, give me Kittle. Give me some of that Kittle.
Kittle for sure. That is going to be Jimmy G's guy this year.
What about Trey Burton?
I'm a little more iffy.
I'm a little more iffy as well, but I'm still going to go with Kittle.
Well, I was talking about Njoku. Njoku or Trey Burton?
Oh, okay. I'll go Burton.
I'm going to Njoku.
Okay. I think we found the line right there. Moving on to the next game, Indianapolis Colts at Washington Redskins. Andrew Luck, as a Colts fan, I got to say, looked awesome last week. I was glad to see him take a bunch of hits. I was glad to see him get hit a couple times. Let me rephrase that. A bunch of hits. He still got hit way too much. But I think 50-plus passes, he only had 14 incompletions, so he looked really good. They were driving to maybe even score a game-winning touchdown until Jack Doyle decided he was going to fumble the ball for a fumble return for a touchdown. But Andrew Luck, definitely starting him. What about the Colts backfield? Marlon Mack could still play this week. Is it Mack or Wilkins for you, George?
I'm going to try to avoid both of them. If I have to pick between the two, I'm going to lean Marlon Mack. I think Marlon Mack's the better running back between the two. I think he's more experienced. He's obviously more experienced than Wilkins. I think he's got more talent than Wilkins. I think he's just a better back overall than Wilkins.
What about Ryan Grant for the Colts? Did you put any waiver claims in for him?
I did. I put in a couple for him, and I actually have him now as my wide receiver 2 in a 16-team league.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thrilled with that because I didn't think he would still be on waivers.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he was as well. Lucas, what about you? 8 catches for 59 yards last week on 9 targets.
I think he was very quietly a good wide receiver that many people overlooked when they were picking up players like Dorsett and Nunwa, Brandon Marshall, and a couple other guys that honestly I saw go without him going.
Yeah, there was a lot of sleepers that, or not, I don't even really want to call them sleepers, but a lot of wide receivers who broke out, like Lucas mentioned, and I think he was just completely overlooked.
I like it. On the other side of the ball, real quick, yes, you're starting T.Y. Hilton. Ebron or Doyle? Who would you rather play?
I'm going to go with Doyle. He got more targets. He had more snaps. He had more playing time. I'm going to go with Doyle.
Yeah, I think Doyle has the higher floor. I think that Ebron is the more athletic receiving option, so he has a higher ceiling. So if you're looking for kind of more of a lottery ticket, we're looking for a guy that's going to have a big game, I think Ebron could be that guy.
Yeah, and after watching last week, I know Doyle had more targets, but after watching what Ebron was doing out there and how well he was actually playing, it made me rise on Ebron and kind of sour a bit on Jack Doyle. Now, I'd still rather have Doyle, but it's much more even for me after watching them both play last week than it was before the week started. Moving over to the Redskins side of the ball, Jordan Reed, definitely starting him?
Oh, absolutely. If he plays, you start him. I mean, he looked fantastic last week.
Yep, Alex Smith, we're going to talk about him a little bit later. Paul Richardson or Jamison Crowder, Lucas, who would you rather have?
Ooh, I think I have to go Crowder until I see rapport between Alex Smith and Richardson.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it would be Crowder as well.
What if it was standard?
I think I'm still going Crowder.
Yep, I agree.
Right.
I think I think he's going to have more of an opportunity.
He might. I just think Paul Richardson is so much like Tyreek Hill. Maybe his 40 time was 0.15 seconds slower, but he's super fast, really athletic, with really good hands. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Redskins at the end of the season. Moving on to the next game here, San Diego Chargers at Buffalo Bills. The Bills are going to get destroyed once again. So, Chargers side of the ball, Rivers definitely starting, especially after a great start to the season. Obviously, Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen. What about Antonio Gates? Playing him against Buffalo?
I'm going to play him against Buffalo. He didn't look very good last week playing against Kansas City. Historically, Kansas City, though, has been one of the top 3 teams against tight ends in the NFL going back the last 5 or 6 years. So, between knocking off a little bit of rust and playing a stout tight end defense, I have no problem swinging with Antonio this week, especially if I lost Delaney Walker or Greg Olsen.
Got any shares of Mike Williams?
I have a lot of shares of Mike Williams.
Yeah, I do too, man. You playing him in any games this week?
One or two. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that we're going to see a lot of Eckler. I think that they're going to get up, and we're going to see a lot of Melvin Gordon and Eckler running the clock out.
I think people are overreacting to Austin Eckler. We did this last year too. Go listen to this week's great debate, though, if you haven't had a chance to do that. Austin Eckler versus Philip Lindsay. It was a good one this week. I probably also have Mike Williams in I think like 8 of my 12 leagues. I invested a lot in that guy. On the Bills side of the ball, LaShawn McCoy still an auto start?
I believe so.
Yeah, purely based on talent and volume. All it takes is one play for him to rip off a big run and make his day. So
Yep, definitely. So Josh Allen getting the start over Nathan Peterman, who once again was absolutely terrible. Is there anyone in the receiving game who's worth playing this week? Maybe Charles Clay if you're in a tight end premium. Is Kelvin Benjamin worth a flyer this week?
He's still Kelvin Benjamin, right? So we know what he is. If you need a flex option, I don't think it's a terrible play.
Part of my problem with it is exactly what you said, Lucas. It is Kelvin Benjamin. We know what
we know what it is. Yep.
We know what it is. I'm not starting him. Not even in. I have him in a 16-team league. I'm not starting him there. Put it that way. In a 12 or 10-team league, you have to have better options than Kelvin Benjamin. If you don't, go to your waiver wire and find one. There's wide receiver is so deep. There's no reason you should be starting Kelvin Benjamin right now.
I agree. Let's move on to the next game. Vikings at Packers. I'm so pumped. This is probably, aside from the Colts game, the game I am most excited to watch. Vikings have so much fantasy football power on their team. Kirk Cousins, who's top 5 every single year. Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, who are both great. Dalvin Cook, who is great. Kyle Rudolph, who is great. Is there anyone on the Vikings that you're not playing this week? Or any week, let's put it that way.
I think going in every week, you're starting your Vikings.
Yeah,
I agree.
You really are.
All right, what about the Packers side of the ball? Jamal Williams didn't get a big showing last week, even though he's supposed to have this opportunity to be the starter. But the Packers were down by a lot, most of the entire game. So he's still got another week to audition for that starting job over Aaron Jones. Is he a start even against Minnesota, knowing that he has to play well if he wants that job to himself?
No, he's not a must start in my opinion. That Minnesota defense is so good. I almost feel bad for Jamal Williams so I like him and I think he's a really good running back. But man, is it brutal to come out against the Bears and the Packers in the first 2 games, and those are your 2 audition games.
Right, I agree, man. That was terrible.
You said it very well. I agree with that. Jamal Williams is a good running back. He can catch, he can block, and I'm not scared to play him this week. But if you have better options, go ahead and play him.
Other guys in this game, Randall Cobb with a huge touchdown reception, which probably won a lot of people their fantasy leagues last week. Maybe not the league, their fantasy matchups. Are you playing him this week, or are we overreacting to Randall Cobb, Lucas?
I think it's a slight overreaction. I do like Randall Cobb, but they have a lot of mouths to feed there. Geronimo Allison was looking pretty good.
Yeah,
so
that deep pass?
Yeah, so Randall Cobb's not a bad play. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but don't expect Randall Cobb to come back and finish as a back-end wide receiver 1 like he did 3 years ago when it was him and Jordy.
Yeah, you got to temper expectations with Randall Cobb, especially this week. I think you can beat the Vikings with a slot wide receiver. Between the slot wide receiver and the tight end, Jimmy Graham, I think both of them will have pretty decent games. I'm not expecting a whole lot of Devontae Adams, and there's not even a deep league am I playing Geronimo Allison.
All right, moving on here. Another division game, Panthers at Falcons. I like the Panthers defense against the Falcons in this game. Cam Newton, once again, always going to play him every single week, most likely. Christian McCaffrey, especially in a PPR. They lost Greg Olsen for at least a few weeks. He re-injured, or did he refracture his surgically repaired broken leg?
He has another fracture in his foot that he has surgically repaired. Yep. Okay. So I don't know if it's exactly where it was before or if it's another area of the foot, but he did refracture the same foot. So he's out for probably 5 or 6 weeks at a minimum.
Is he somebody you would drop, Lucas, if you have him?
I did drop him.
I did too.
I dropped him, and I picked up Eric Ebron and Jonnu Smith, and I'm going to see how these two do over the next couple of weeks, figure out which one I want, and then drop the other.
I dropped him for Ebron as well. I put him on the IR in one league and dropped him in another one.
Yeah, I didn't have an IR to do that. We had a small bench, so it's not worth keeping him. I had too many quality players right now that aren't injured, so had to drop him. It was sad.
All right, I want you guys to give me a quick answer here. No explanation, no, oh, well, it depends if you have any better options or not, because let's face it, it always depends on if you have better options. Devin Funchess, start or sit?
Start.
Sure, start.
Okay. Let's see, Mohamed Sanu, start or sit?
Sit.
Yeah, sit. I do love his talent, though.
Matt Ryan?
Start.
Yeah, I'd start him.
Okay. I like it. Julio Jones, you're also going to start definitely Devonta Freeman. Are you starting him even if he's – well, obviously you're not starting him if he's not playing. But if he's playing, are you going to see what the injury looks like that he's getting over, or are you going to play him?
I'm going to play him.
Yeah, if he's healthy, you play him.
All right. I like it. Moving on, Texans at Titans, another division game. A lot of division games this week. DeAndre Hopkins, definitely starting him. Are you starting Lamar Miller every week after – well, at least this week after what we saw last week, George?
Yes, I am. I've been high on Lamar Miller all offseason. As long as Deshaun Watson's back there, I'm starting Lamar Miller.
Yeah, same. He didn't have a monster fantasy day, but 20 carries for 98 yards, adding a few catches in there. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Oh, let's see here. Starter sit Will Fuller.
Sit.
I think you start him. If he's healthy, you start him. Monitor the hamstring.
I'm going to say sit and wait for at least one more week. Marcus Mariota might not play this week, so it might be Blaine Gabbert behind center for the Titans.
Yeah.
Who would you rather play this week if you had both, Dion Lewis or Derrick Henry?
Dion. Give me Dion.
I'm going to go Dion.
Yeah, give me Dion every single time. Starter sit against the Texans defense, Corey Davis.
Sit.
Sit him. I'm not a Davis fan.
Really had a pretty good week last week.
Yeah, he's not my guy.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, well, actually, real quick, starter sit, Jonnu Smith.
I'm going to go start.
Funny enough, he is my stream for tight end, so yeah. I would start him.
Say you lost Greg Olsen and picked up Ebron and Jonnu. Who you playing?
I'm playing Ebron because I kind of know what he is.
Yeah, I would go Ebron over Jonnu.
Yep, I would say the same thing. Cardinals at Rams. Another division game going on here as well. So David Johnson, definitely an auto start. Larry Fitzgerald, pretty sure we're playing Fitz. Anyone else on the Cardinals that we're concerned about? Let's say, who is it? Ricky Seals-Jones, start sit.
Sit.
Yeah, I'm going to sit him.
I agree. Anybody else in this Cardinals worth talking about?
Don't think so.
Not really. I mean, you got the two that you really want to play, in Fitz and DJ, and that's about it.
Yep, I agree. Gurley, starter sit.
I'm going to sit.
Yeah.
You were seeing if I was paying attention.
Oh, I know sometimes you just like to tune me out when you hear my sultry tones coming through the microphone.
Now, I'm going to take a flyer on that Gurley guy. I hear he's okay at football.
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot. Robert Woods, start sit.
I'm going to go start this week.
I'm okay with it. Yep, start him.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm leaning that way as well. I think if you have Cooper Kupp, is he certainly you're starting him each week?
Yeah, it's these these Rams wide receivers, I think you're starting each of them almost every week. The only problem you're going to run into is you don't know which one's going to go off.
Right. Yep, completely agree. Detroit Lions travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Lions got absolutely destroyed last week by the Jets, just completely dismantled on defense over and over and over again. Matthew Stafford and his 4 picks did not help things for the offense. Is Matthew Stafford a start or a sit?
I'm starting him.
Yeah, you can start Stafford. He's not as bad as what he looked like.
No,
Yeah, I think this is maybe the biggest overreaction of week 1.
No, the biggest overreaction is those who dropped Ben Roethlisberger.
I mean, I think I would rather, if I had the choice between the two, if which one to drop, I'd drop Roethlisberger over dropping Stafford.
I don't. This week, I would play Roethlisberger over Stafford this week.
Oh, this week. I guess I was just considering the rest of the season, not if you were streaming them. Yeah, I'm going to take Roethlisberger at home every single time.
Yep.
49ers side of the ball. When it comes to the Lions side of the ball, I think Golden Tate, you're definitely starting. Marvin Jones, most likely starting as well. There's really no one in the running game that I want to start for Detroit, is there? What about you guys?
Nope. There's nobody back there I want anything to do with.
All right, 49ers, George Kittle. Pretty big game. Didn't get into the end zone last week, but had a really good game for you in fantasy football. I think he's basically an auto start at this point until we see anything else. Marquise Goodwin got a little bit banged up. He's still looking like he's going to be on track to play, but we're going to keep an eye on that. No matter what about Marquise Goodwin, let's say start, sit, Pierre Garçon.
Sit.
I'd start him.
You know, I think I would start him against the Lions as well. Jimmy G, start or sit?
Start.
I'm going to go sit.
Yep, same. I'm on the sit side here as well. Let's see. And who's their running back? Oh, yeah. Alfred Morris.
Breida.
Start or sit?
I'm sitting out for Matt Breida.
So you would play Breida?
I would.
Okay. What about you, Lucas?
I'm sitting until he proves something to me.
Yeah, I'm not playing either guy. Moving to the AFC West. Raiders at Broncos should be a fun game here. If for some reason I just like it when these two teams play. Amari Cooper, start or sit?
I'm going to sit Amari Cooper.
I actually think he has a good game against the Broncos. I would start him.
See, I think he deserves to be on the until we see otherwise. Now, I know that happened last year, and then he went, like 120 and 2 touchdowns or something like that? Or was it closer to 200 yards?
He had a huge game. He had like 18 targets with 180 yards or something.
Yeah, monster game last season, but personally, I think you have to sit him until we see something else. Marshawn Lynch, start or sit?
If he's healthy, he had some strange sickness or something that he left the game with. I haven't seen a lot of detail on this yet, but if he's healthy, you play him.
Man, that run that he had, that touchdown, that has to be inside of his top 5 runs of all time. Yes, I know that he was getting pushed by one of his offensive linemen, but there were still way more defenders on him than there were offensive line. He was just a beast on that run.
He was. He carried like 5 people with him into the end zone.
He looks so good. He looks so good. Derek Carr, start or sit?
Sit.
Yeah, probably a pretty easy one.
Yep, sit.
What about Case Keenum?
Play him.
Play him.
I like it. I think it's a little bit bold. Personally, I want to see it again, but I like it. Would you rather play Sanders or Demaryius Thomas?
Sanders. Sanders going to be such a beast all year.
Yeah, I would play Sanders.
And last little question for you here. A lot of people have both of these guys. I had Royce Freeman. I got Phillip Lindsay off the waiver wire. If you have both, who are you playing?
I'm playing Royce Freeman.
So am I.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give him one more shot here. We do need to see if Lindsay was just a flash in the pan. Once again, go back and listen to this week's Great Debate so you can hear more thoughts on that. Just a few more games here left. Patriots at Jaguars. So I think Tom Brady. Would you consider ever benching Tom Brady?
No.
If there was one defense that you would bench him against, wouldn't it be this one?
It would be, but I'm still not benching him.
To me, it just depends on who you have as a backup. You're probably not benching him for a streaming option, but if you happen to have, I don't know, Phillip Rivers or there's a couple other guys you could potentially have that I would play over Brady, especially with no Edelman. Hogan didn't look that great. Burkhead's probably out. Sonny Michel's probably out. Jeremy Hill's out. They're just missing a lot of options right now.
What about Brady or Rivers?
I would go Rivers.
I would go Rivers.
Roethlisberger.
I'd go at home. Yeah, I'm playing Roethlisberger.
Yep.
All right, there we go. Anybody else on the Patriots that we need to talk about? Chris Hogan, I do think he bounces back. Yeah, he shat the bed for you last week, but I do think he's going to have a better game this week. Jaguars, if Leonard Fournette does not play, are you taking TJ Yeldon or Corey Grant?
Yeldon for sure.
Yeah, Yeldon for sure.
Is it a for sure, though? Because I feel like both of them are going to get work.
I think Yeldon gets more work. That's what it looked to me, that Yeldon would be the guy, and I think he's better.
All right, there we go. Jaguars wide receivers, Keelan Cole, D.D. Westbrook, Dante Moncrief. You starting any of those guys against the Patriots this week?
The only wide receiver from the Jaguars I'll start almost any week would be Keelan Cole.
Yep, agreed.
And start sit, Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
Sit.
Like he had a touchdown, I almost want to start him, but I just can't do it.
All right. He's a sit for me as well. Sunday Night Football, big rivalry game. New York Giants travel to Dallas to take on, quote-unquote, America's team, and the Dallas Cowboys are the only ones who really actually still believe that. Taking on the Cowboys, it's going to be a fun one here. Saquon Barkley not going against Jacksonville, I think is going to be fun.
Oh, I think he's going to feast on that Cowboy defense.
Yeah, Lucas, you're the Cowboy fan here. What do you think?
I think Cowboys defense looks the best that it has in a long time.
Is that just compared to its offense?
No, that's compared to the defense it's had recently.
No, I agree with Lucas that the defense does look a lot better. The problem is the offense looks like garbage,
Yeah,
and therefore I think the Giants offense will be on the field a lot more than the Cowboys. So I expect the Giants to have more time of possession. And with that, I think they're going to wear down the Cowboys defense.
Starter sit, Allen Hurns.
Sit.
Cole Beasley in a PPR.
Play.
Flex
All
it.
right. I like it. Sterling Shepard start sit.
I'm going to go sit.
I'm going to say play him.
I'm going to say play him too. I think for me to feel comfortable playing Sterling Shepard, I want to feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think this one could be.
I would love it if it was.
Yeah, I would too. And honestly, I don't really care who wins, but for Lucas's sake, I hope it's the Giants.
Oh. That's...
I have family that's fans of both teams, so irregardless of who wins, I'm going to hear it from one side of the family or the other. So
there you go. Maybe they'll tie and the Dolphins will win, and then you'll get to brag. How's that sound?
Only if we can go 7 hours and 20 minutes. I want to set the back-to-back week record of the longest game in NFL history.
All right, last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Seahawks at the Chicago Bears. Russell Wilson, I'm pretty sure, is still an auto start. Anybody else for Seattle? Tyler Lockett, big week last week. Start or sit Lockett?
Start him.
I think you need to play him. Yeah.
Would you play him or Brandon Marshall?
Ooh.
I want to play both.
Because I could say start or sit Brandon Marshall.
I mean, I think Brandon Marshall looked good, and he is their red zone guy. He is going to be their red zone guy. So
I want to say start both.
Start or sit Will Dissly?
Sit
until we. I need to see a couple games of him getting used to believe in that.
Start sit Tariq Cohen.
Play him in a PPR for sure.
Yep. Yeah, standard. There's no reason to play him.
All right, I agree with that. Allen Robinson, start sit, still start.
Oh yeah, you're starting Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I don't love Allen Robinson, but I'm starting him. He looked like Trubisky's guy.
Yeah, he really did. The Bears as a whole, I don't think really looked that great, but I think they're going to start to gel much better as the season goes on. I'm excited to see what Allen Robinson does. Guys, let's go ahead and flex our muscles. I think we need to get a picture taken of the three of us. You know those like beach t-shirts with like the white t-shirt with the beach bod on it?
Oh god.
We each need one of those.
So last year for Christmas, we did a Christmas party and I purchased one of those ugly Christmas shirts and it was literally like a supermodel body, ripped abs, flexing pecs and everything with my head. It was fantastic.
That's great. That is beautiful. All right. Got 8 players here. We're going to run through these kind of quick because we're running a little bit low on time. So just give me this guy or this guy. Patrick Mahomes or Matthew Stafford?
Mahomes.
Ooh.
You're going to ride that hot hand, huh?
I'm going Stafford. I'm going Stafford.
I'm going Stafford too. If you look back at those Mahomes touchdowns, his big game, that was Tyreek Hill doing the work.
Tyreek's still there.
He is still there, but I don't think he's not gonna do that every week. Certainly, I think I'm gonna go with Stafford. I think the scales kind of tip the other way. Tevin Coleman or Jay Ajayi, assuming Devonta Freeman doesn't play.
Tevin Coleman.
Tevin Coleman or Ajayi? Ajayi for me. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Ajayi.
I'm leaning towards Jay Ajayi as well. Jordan Wilkins or Philip Lindsay?
Philip Lindsay.
Philip Lindsay.
Yep, same here. Pierre Garçon or Sammy Watkins?
Pierre Garçon. Especially if Goodwin's out.
I don't like either, but I'll go Pierre Garçon.
I think I'm leaning that way as well. Tyrod Taylor or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Tyrod.
Give me the Ty God.
Yeah,
Ty God all
the
day
same
long.
way.
Yeah.
Tyrod for me. Here's an ugly decision. Peyton Barber or Kerryon Johnson?
Peyton, based on usage.
Yeah, he got 19 touches last week. You don't have to like the results, but you have to like the opportunity. So give me Peyton.
I do think Kerryon
way too.
I think Kerryon rest by end of season though. He is a true talent. They just need to find a way to utilize him.
Yeah, and you know how they do that? Just give him the ball. That's how you utilize him.
No, that's way too complicated.
I know, man. It's man, giving our draft pick the ball, not for us. Devin Funchess or Nelson Aguilar?
Aguilar.
I'm gonna go Devin Funchess.
Leaning Aguilar as well.
Aguilar's the man.
Yeah, I think as long as Alshon is out, I think he's the guy. Carlos Hyde, Marshawn Lynch.
Give me some Hyde. That should be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, I like Hyde. He does it all. He can run, he can catch. I'll take Hyde.
Same for me as well. All right, guys, last segment of the show, Streamerwire, where we're going to take quarterback and a tight end. Each one of us has picked one that we're going to recommend that you could stream this week. All right, I'm going to kick it off here. Quarterback, I'm taking Alex Smith. He is 70% owned, but there is a chance that he is still out there on your waiver wire. Only 70%, so 30% of leagues he's still available. At home against Indianapolis, who I think their defense last week was better than a lot of people have been giving the Colts credit for. Oh, they're terrible. They're the worst defense in the league. No, I don't think they were really that bad. The score was kind of inflated by that fumble return for a touchdown at the end of the game. But Alex Smith, we've got Richardson, Crowder, Josh Doxson maybe a little bit out there, Jordan Reed. I think he's gonna have a big game. All right, George, what about your quarterback?
My quarterback of the week that I would stream this week is going to be Case Keenum. He's only 36% owned in Yahoo leagues. We seen last week 3 touchdowns. Yes, he had the 3 turnovers, but he was able to sustain 2 viable fantasy options in the passing game in both DT and Emmanuel Sanders. He had a couple of check down passes that got Philip Lindsay involved for a touchdown. He's got weapons all over him, and the defense is going to keep them in games. So I'm going to go with Case Keenum this week.
And Lucas, your quarterback.
My quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. He's only 29% owned. He has some of the best receiving options out there in a healthy and on the field Josh Gordon and Landry and Njoku and Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde. This is going to be a high-scoring affair in a dome with New Orleans. Expect Tyrod Taylor to have a big game. Don't forget, he got the Bills to the playoffs last year, and that was on him.
It is very easy to forget that the Bills got to the playoffs last year. Let's do a little snake here. Lucas, kick it off with the tight end.
So my tight end is Jonnu Smith. He's only 18% owned. He is filling in for Delaney Walker. They're playing Houston this week, which are pretty easy to beat over the middle. And Gronk went 7 for 8 for 100-plus yards and a touchdown last week. Don't expect Gronk numbers, but I expect them to start working him in heavily early.
George, your tight end.
My tight end is Antonio Gates. He has a rapport with Phillip Rivers, as we know. He leads the NFL all-time in touchdown catches. As I said earlier, he played one of the top 3 pass defenses against the tight end last week. This week he gets the Bills, who historically have been really bad on defense against tight ends. So I'm going to go with Antonio Gates.
I like him. And my tight end stream of the week is going to be Ben Watson. He's 49% owned in Yahoo leagues. I'm assuming it's probably the same at other places as well, but in what could be, as Lucas alluded to with Tyrod Taylor, in a high-scoring game in New Orleans. We saw Ben Watson a couple seasons ago with Drew Brees, and he was awesome. I think he's going to have a big game. I think he's a great streaming option, especially if you were someone who lost Greg Olsen or Delaney Walker. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for the weekend preview this for week 2. Couple things before we go. Go to sleeperwire.com/rankings. Check out our weekly rankings that are updated every single week. It's a combination of myself, Dirty Jobs Mike, and Prophet Hoos. Follow us on Twitter at Sleeperwire Show. I'm on there at Prof_Chris SW. Lucas is on there at Sleeperwire LBB, and George is on there at BFTG Pod. Check us out on the Sleeper app at Professor Chris, Sleeperwire LBB, and BFTGeo, and on the Fantasy Life app at Professor Chris and Geo. And I don't think you're on there, Lucas, are you?
No, I'm not, but I need to get on there. I should use Sleeperwire LBB.
All right, Sleeperwire LBB. There you have it. George, Lucas, thanks for joining me. Everybody else, catch you next time.
Go win 'em, boys.
Go get it.